I've been inspired by a recent video that I've seen from George the Fragrance Apprentice, and I'm going to do my own spin on it. In this video, I'll be taking a look at some fragrances that I associate with countries that I've visited. Stay tuned and join me on this journey. Hey, what's going on YouTube? Raj here. I hope all of you out there are well. So at the moment, a lot of us are unable to travel at the moment with this lockdown situation. And I think that what that has done for a lot of people is make them think about traveling more than they have done before. I think it's human nature to go out there and explore, and it's something that I really enjoy doing. So the countries I'll be talking about in this video are Morocco, Cuba, Lebanon and Jordan, India, and Cape Verde. I'll be showing some pictures that I've taken while in these countries, and the first place to start with is Morocco. I've been to Morocco a couple of times. The first time I went to Marrakesh, and that was on a family holiday. Then I actually went to Morocco on my own, and again went to Marrakesh, and also went to the coastal city of Essaouira. Essaouira is actually where they filmed a little bit of Game of Thrones there, and I really enjoyed it. I had two very different experiences the first and second time. One thing that I really like about Marrakesh is that you've got a lot of history there. There's a lot of cultural things to do, old palaces to visit which have been really beautifully made, intricately designed and well maintained actually. There are a lot of gardens I noticed in Marrakesh. One of the most popular ones is the Yves Saint Laurent one, the Jardin de Majorelle, and you've also got some more modern, more recently created parks in Marrakesh. You can shop till you drop in Marrakesh with all the souks and the markets, and there's always a lot of chaos and noise. Some people actually quite dislike the centre square, which is known as Jemaa el-Fna. I kind of like it and dislike it at the same time. I love the fact that there are so many different food places and lots of little cafes and little restaurants, and you've got a lot of live entertainment there. Some of it is a little bit over the top with the way that they, I feel, exploit animals there, but it all forms part of the fabric of the city. Serge Louton is somebody who's been inspired by Morocco. I believe he lives there now or has lived there in the past. And an obvious choice for me would be something like Ambre Sultan. I could mention that. I could also mention Andy Tauer's L'air du désert marocain, which means air of the Moroccan desert. But I'm not going to go with those picks. I'm going to pick something that is a little bit more personal. And these aren't really like fragrances as such of, you know, multiple things put together. These are more oils that I've picked up in the pharmacies. Yeah, I don't know if a pharmacy is the best word to use, but here on the bottle it says Marrakesh herboristerie, so something to do with like herbs or stuff. This is just a musk oil that they've put together, probably a synthetic oil. There's also an amber one as well that I picked up, and also a sandalwood one I've got here. These are quite nice. They're all roll-on oils and quite handy to travel with. Yeah, so one thing I quite like about these oils is that you can kind of mix them and blend them as you like. So just roll on a little bit here. You can mix it with say like a sandalwood or like a rose or a citrus to freshen it up. And yeah, it's quite nice to just like spray on a little bit and kind of blend in with the scents of the city, I find. My most recent trip abroad, which feels like a lifetime ago, was to the Caribbean, and specifically the island of Cuba. I've been to Havana a couple of times, and I've done a couple of day trips to other cities. I will definitely go back to Cuba and explore other cities further away from Havana, but I've got to say, as somebody who's into cigars and rum, and just generally like that kind of Caribbean climate, Cuba for me was amazing. It's a place where a lot of people can get quite passionate when talking about, because obviously you've got the communist government there, and you've got the the bad relations between America and Cuba. For me, I don't let things like that stop me. You know, if I did not go to places on in the world based on the politics of that country, I don't think I would even leave the UK. So I don't take that attitude when it comes to traveling. As long as it's safe to travel to a country, I'm going to try and explore as much as I can. And with Cuba, I love the vibrancy there. I love the fact that, especially in Havana, you've got a mixture of different things. You've got the more historical side of the city, with the whole revolution that took place in Cuba. You've also got the beach, which I think is they have really beautiful beaches in Havana. You've got great food. The nightlife is great. Obviously, I'm into cigars, so that is like the home of cigars. And it is a great place to go and relax, actually, as well. You can be on your feet all day exploring, and you can do like day trips out to places like Vinales and Pinar del Rio and the tobacco plantations. You can do a lot of different things. There's diving opportunities in Cuba, and there are many other towns and cities that I haven't explored and I would like to in the future. It's definitely a place I would recommend. So recently when I went, I took a fragrance with me that I wanted to test out in humid weather. It was from Guerlain, and this one is Vetiver. Guerlain's Vetiver is a classic. It contains Haitian vetiver and Indian vetiver as well, and it actually really works well in humid weather. It felt perfect, to be honest. I remember spraying this one on really liberally, like 10 sprays all over the body, on clothes, when I went with a friend, and before we were going out going out during the day. This one just works so nicely with the warmth from the skin, obviously with the warm weather and the humidity in the air, really brought this fragrance out and made it very intoxicating from a sort of vetiver point of view. There's a little bit of tobacco in here as well, which is one of the reasons why I think Cuba and Guerlain's vetiver goes well together. Dry spices, a little bit smoky. The opening can be maybe a little bit too smoky for some people, but I think it is a real classic and just works really well in those types of conditions. The next fragrance to mention is actually my scent of the day, and it comes from the house Nicolai, which used to be called Parfum de Nicolai, and this one is Cuir Cuba Intense. So I'm working off this sample, and it comes with this really large card inside, and it's got the bottle you can see here, and some of the notes and the note breakdown and the description, and it comes with this little sample here. So this basically says Cuir Cuba, which means leather Cuba. Intense evokes the scent of the dry tobacco leaf, taking you towards the heart of a cigar box. A fragrance which reveals on the skin a warm, intense, original and elegant long trail. Cuir Cuba Intense for me is not really a leathery fragrance. It's more sweet, spicy, aromatic, green, slightly dry also at the same time. I actually quite enjoy it. There is a feeling of maybe a little bit of like a licorice kind of vibe in here, which I really enjoy. And it's a good fragrance. I'll definitely wear it down to the end and then do a review. In 2018, I went to the Middle East for the first time, and I went with a couple of friends. We went to Lebanon and Jordan. Most of our time was actually spent in Beirut, in Lebanon, but we did do a couple of trips, a few day trips up and down the coast of Lebanon to places like Byblos and Tyre. I really enjoyed Lebanon. I found Beirut to be a very modern city. I quite liked its more the sort of liberal sides of the country, whereas if you went to other parts of Lebanon, it did feel a little bit more conservative. There were some historical sites there. It was quite interesting to hear about some of the history, how the city or the country has been shaped, and visit some sites there. And Beirut was really good for nightlife as well, which kind of surprised me. I mean, I did read up about it before going, but going there, it sometimes didn't feel like I was in the Middle East. It felt like I could have been in London at times. But yeah, I mean, which I liked actually. So yeah, Beirut was pretty cool. And then when we went to Jordan, obviously the main sort of attraction in Jordan is the ancient city of Petra. This place was amazing. The fact that the city of Petra was undiscovered for so long, the fact that it was inhabited by the Nabateans, and this whole place was just, the way that they had carved some of the places out of rock was absolutely amazing. We spent about half the day in Petra. It's well worth going, walking around and exploring. And then we spent the second part of the day in Wadi Rum, which is a desert. They filmed Lawrence of Arabia there, and they've also filmed The Martian, the film with, I think it was Matt Damon, I think it was Matt Damon, and that was really, really cool actually. We did a little tour in a little jeep, and we enjoyed some tea that some of the locals who were living there made for us. It was really cool. Some of the pictures were spectacular. When I was in Amman in Jordan, I actually did a little scent of the day video, and I'll leave a link to that. I was at one of the archaeological sites. It was an amphitheater actually, and I took this fragrance with me, which I wore throughout the whole holiday. This is from Hepcat. This is by the brand Fleur. And this fragrance is like a oudi, tobacco, kind of like vetiver fragrance. Very woody. Has a kind of sweet, smoky vibe. In some ways reminds me of that Purple Oud by Dior. This is a great fragrance. And again, it's a little bit more on the heavier side, but works really well actually, I find, in warmer weather. Sometimes these types of fragrances that can actually surprise you. You think, oh, it should be just for cool, cold, wintry weather. But sometimes when it's nice and warm and that body heat that comes off you, it really makes the fragrance just like come to life, and you don't need to spray on too much. So this was a great fragrance. The next country to visit is in my blood, you could say, and it is India. I've been to India several times, and it is a country that delights me, confuses me, and infuriates me at the same time. It's quite a fascinating country actually, and there's so much diversity there. I've been to Mumbai, I've been to Pune, I've been to Goa and Kerala. Also up north in Delhi and Agra, and obviously visited some of the sites there. I really enjoyed one of my more recent trips. Well, I say recent trips, it was probably like 2014, 2015. I actually went on my own and spent some time in Mumbai, but also wanted to go specifically to visit the Taj Mahal and Delhi. So when I went there, it was like an amazing experience. Going and seeing one of the wonders of the world, the Taj Mahal, was one hell of an experience, which I'll never forget. It's one of those sites that you would have seen pictures of so many times, you would have seen it on TV or documentaries or whatever, but that really will never actually properly prepare you for when you actually see it yourself. I remember the first time I saw the Taj Mahal, you walk through this gate. I say a gate, it's like a huge like arch or something along those lines, and you see it and you're like, well, I was like, oh okay, yeah, Taj Mahal, yeah, it looks exactly how I expected it. But you don't really appreciate the beauty, the majesty, the grandeur of this incredibly made building until you start walking a little bit closer, and you realize, oh my god, this is the most perfectly symmetrical building, made out of marble. The shapes of it is breathtaking, and it was a really amazing experience. When I was in Mumbai, I mentioned this recently on a video that I've done where I spoke about scents of the week, where I just wore oud-based fragrances, and I went to the Ajmal boutique. I bought an oud oil, but I also bought this, which is a rose oil. I quite like the packaging, and this particular one is actually a rose oil, so it just sits in this, sits like this, and here is the oil. So this one is called Ruhul Vard, and you can see the oil there. I quite like it. It's a more of a fresher style rose. This one is not one that I will wear like all the time. You know, it's not something that I apply frequently. But from time to time, it's quite nice to go back to this oil. It's very fresh. green, grassy, a touch almost smoky actually in the opening, and it's just a rose oil. It does settle down into something very dewy and grassy on my skin. And while I would say this is not like my favorite type of oil to apply, it's quite nice actually now and again to just, you know, refresh your memory of what an authentic rose can smell like. Very, very nice. And yeah, worth exploring, worth trying something new, you know. Even if you don't wear this all the time, it's good to dip into now and again. The next country to mention is a country that, to be honest, I had not even heard of until recently. It's based off the west coast of Africa. It's a group of islands, and this country is called Cape Verde. I really enjoyed Cape Verde. It's known as the African Caribbean, and it has amazing weather all year round. It never gets super hot and never dips too much or becomes cold. It rarely rains, which is kind of interesting. And I did a lot of water-based like sport activities there. I tried out some not kite surfing, wind surfing for the first time, which was pretty cool. Bit tricky to get used to at first, but actually got the hang of it a little bit later. Did a lot of swimming in the sea. I did some snorkeling. We did some trips going out on a boat, and there was like drinks on the drinking beers and some food on the boat, which is really cool. So me and my friend, I went with a friend, and we stayed on the island of Sal, which is known for salt production. And Cape Verde actually used to be colonized by the Portuguese. So the first fragrance I'm going to mention is from Guerlain's Aqua Allegoria range. This one is called Limon Verde. Limon Verde is very classical in terms of the style of the Aqua Allegoria range. It's very fresh, sparkling, watery, very lively, and just works perfectly in warm weather conditions. It has lime in there. There's also a greenness, a watery, white, musky vibe. Very easy to wear, nothing too complicated, just nice, good quality ingredients. And this is, as I mentioned, a fragrance that I used to own, and it was perfect, I found, in like these warmer weather occasions. Okay, maybe you might need to spray someone, 4 or 5 hours later, but that's, par for the course when it comes to these types of fragrances. So Cape Verde, as I mentioned, is a group of islands, so you will, often find yourself on the coast. So I'm thinking marine vibes, I'm thinking saltiness, I'm thinking fruity vibes. I'm going to mention a fragrance which isn't actually one of my favorite fragrances, but I think it's worth mentioning for this video, and this one is Creed's Millesime Imperial. Okay, so this is not one of my favorite fragrances, but it's not going to stop me mentioning it to you, because I'm sure there'll be somebody out there who does like this one. Yeah, you've got the sort of salty melon fruitiness, the aquatic style here, the sort of Creed's signature, the ambergris that they add to their fragrances. And yeah, I think it would definitely work for someone out there. That freshness, that Creed freshness, which is typical in their DNA, might be something that you like a lot. So definitely check it out. I'd love to hear what some of your favorite countries are and fragrances that you would associate with them. Guys, thanks for watching. I do appreciate it. I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye.